Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Tanks with the mighty Jingles. Yes, it's that bloody tank game again. Well, it seems only fair. I mean, you've had to watch that bloody boat game all week. And I've got something pretty special for you today. In fact, the next couple of World of Tanks videos that I'm going to be doing are also going to be equally special. I've got my hands on a review account, and I've got some very, very exclusive premium tanks to take a look at. Starting off with the Skoda T40. The first Czechoslovakian tank to be introduced into World of Tanks. Although technically it isn't. The T15 and the T25 are both Czech designs, as is the Panzer 38T. But, well, those are all in the German tech tree. This is the first tank that we're going to get in the all-new, all-singing, all-dancing, brand spanking new Czechoslovakian tech tree in World of Tanks. And as you can see from looking down at the tank strip at the bottom of the screen, it's not going to be too hard to guess what the next two tank reviews are that I'm going to be doing. But for today, we're taking a look at the Skoda T40. So, let's get this show on the road. The Skoda T40. It's a Tier 6 premium medium tank. And while it's a Tier 6 premium, which means it isn't going to earn as much money as a Tier 8 premium, you should still find it extremely difficult to lose money when you're driving this tank, providing both you and the tank are at least semi-competent. And, well, you don't really need to worry about that. As far as the tank's concerned, this is not a bad tank at all. Let's have a quick look at the stats. Because we like a bit of stats in World of Tanks, don't we? Oh yeah, we love those stats, yes we do. Starting off with the gun, it's always a good place to start. As best I can work out, this is a Czech license-produced version of the German 88mm flak, the L56, the infamous gun that was equipped on the Tiger. And I say as best I can work it out because there's all sorts of material being written about this gun, but it's all been written in Czech, and so I can't understand it. But it definitely does perform a lot like the German 88. The rate of fire is the same, 8.7 rounds per minute. The penetration with credit armor-piercing ammunition is the same, 132mm. The average damage of 220 is the same. The accuracy, 0.38, exactly the same. There are only two differences. The Czech-produced version of this gun has a slightly worse aiming time than the German one, 2.5 seconds. And then the other difference is in the penetration of the premium ammunition. The Czech gun fires high explosive anti-tank. The German gun does not. Therefore, the Czech gun has 200mm of penetration with premium high explosive anti-tank ammunition, which is 29mm better than the 171mm of penetration you get with premium ammunition on the same gun in a German tank. And the only price you have to pay for that arguably better premium ammunition is 0.2 seconds greater aiming time. This gun gives the Skoda T40 a very competitive damage per minute of 1,913, which is near as damn it exactly the same as the same gun on the German Tier 6 medium 3001P. As far as mobility is concerned, that's definitely this tank's strong point. It is a pretty big tank, but it's not that heavy at 40 tons, and it has a powerful 700 horsepower engine, which gives it a top speed of 50 kilometers per hour, and a power-to-weight ratio of 17.33 horsepower per ton, which is fairly decent for a medium tank. It's also reasonably manoeuvrable, with a 38 degree per second hull traverse. The turret turns at 32 degrees per second as well. The combination of punchy gun, powerful engine, decent weight, good power-weight ratio means that this is, well, it's kind of like what the old 3001H used to be prior to it becoming a heavy tank. It used to be the scrapping, brawling German medium tank of choice. You could really throw that thing around, get it in a close-range dogfight, and while the armor was terrible, you had the mobility to avoid being hit, and the DPM with the gun to generally, if you're really good, take care of the opposition. Of course, this is not a fast and manoeuvrable tank because it's light. It isn't. It's a 40-ton tank. It's fast and manoeuvrable because it's got a big, powerful engine. And that means it's absolutely hell on wheels when it comes to dishing out the ramming damage to light tanks or even other medium tanks that are substantially lighter than you are. Totally worth it. So, alright, it's got a decent gun. The mobility is very, very good. Where's the downside, Jingles? Well, the armour isn't very good. I mean, it's not bad, but it's certainly not a well-armoured tank. Although the armour is relatively consistent. Let's have a look at the old model viewer and we'll show you exactly what you get with the armour on this machine. And there it is. Let's see. What do we have? Starting with the armour at the front. Lower glacis, 40mm. Lower part of the upper glacis, 40mm. Upper glacis, 65mm, as is the turret front. Now, there is some angling going on there, but it's not really improving the armour by all that much. You're looking at around about 60 to 70 effective millimetres of armour, pretty much all over the front of the tank. You might get lucky and take a shot on the side of the turret, which is 40mm thick, but from the front, very, very heavily sloped. The sides, 30. The rear is interesting, though. 30mm thick, but it's very, very well sloped. I have actually had some pretty lucky bounces off the back end of this tank. But overall, you're looking at a tank that has enough armour that if you angle it properly, you can expect to bounce some shots from lower tier tanks than you. Other tier 6s, tier 7s and tier 8s are definitely not going to have any problems penetrating the armour of this machine. It's the mobility of this machine which is very, very good, which is what's going to keep it alive in combat. Other things that you need to know about the T40, 700 hit points, perfectly fine, fairly standard for a tier 6 medium. It has 370 meters view range, which isn't bad either, and it has a 710 meter signal range. Gun depression, 5 degrees. It's not really very good at all, but the rest of the stats of the tank I do feel make up for it. This is a good, solid, reliable tier 6 medium tank, and to prove it, we're going to take it out for a spin. It did take a couple of games in the T40 to get the hang of it. This is one of the games where you're still getting the hang of it, and probably the single most valuable thing I can tell you about what you do need to bear in mind at all times when you're driving this tank is that with .38 accuracy, which isn't particularly good, you need to let that gun aim before you pull the trigger. Sure, sometimes you'll get lucky, but more often than not, as I discovered the hard way, you won't, particularly since it does have a 2.5 second aiming time and you cannot fit a vertical stabilizer to this tank. And there you go. Yep. Snapshots with this machine rarely work, even at point blank range. Well, this isn't really point blank range, but when you're exchanging paint with another tank and you're circling around them and putting the DBM of this gun and the mobility of the tank to use, you're probably okay to fire without aiming. But in almost every other circumstance, if you can afford to stop, wait, and make sure the shot's going to hit, then stop, wait, and make sure the shot's going to hit. Because the number of shots in this match that got missed because the trigger was being clutched, well, it was just getting silly. And as soon as I started taking time to make sure that the sights were fully settled on the target before I pulled the trigger, I started to get very, very good results in this machine. Although, not so much in this game. So, anyway, we know there's a couple of enemy tanks on the ridge up there. And there we go, Dickermax. Don't let it aim. Doesn't even land in the same postcode. He's got some friends up there with him, of course. Oh, enemy artillery. I don't know if you noticed in chat earlier on. The SU-8 on the enemy team. Because I'm playing with a Wargaming test account, and you can see the name of the... well, you can't see the name of the account, but it's Wargaming Review 1 or something like that. He thinks I work for Wargaming. There you go. Once again, didn't bother letting the gun aim. Completely missed that guy. And the enemy SU-8 is... well, he's not very happy with me. Because he thinks I work for Wargaming. Once again, very lucky to hit that guy. I mean, I sort of let it aim, but I fired before it was fully aimed, and you could clearly see the shot arcing up towards the top and right hand side of the aiming circle, and the Jackson just kind of drove into it. Using the mobility of the tank to get around the flank of this Dickermax, and this time wait. There you go. Patience, young Padawan, and you will be rewarded with damage. Don't worry about the enemy artillery though, we're going to see more of him later. We're not done with learning yet though. I still haven't grasped this basic lesson with the Skoda T40. Let the gun aim before you pull the trigger. You will be rewarded with damage. If you don't, you won't. So, yeah. There was never any danger of us losing this match. I mean, we're winning 10-3. It was an absolute slaughter. But there's still just time for me to stop and have a frank and open exchange of views with the enemy artillery player who was yelling at me at the beginning of the match because he thought I was a wargaming employee. And oh, there he is. And, yep, how do you like them apples? Now it's your turn? Yep, you sucked. And we finish him off. And now there's just a AFK KV1 to farm some damage on, while the artillery player rages in chat and tells me to die of cancer. So I think we may have upset him. Not quite sure what's going on with this KV1. He's definitely connected, and he's a decent player. He's got a mark of excellence on his barrel. And yes, somebody on my team just did shoot me in the back of the turret as they were trying to score some damage on the AFK KV1 because random battle teams. But anyway, I think we've learned our lesson now. Stop and let this thing aim before you pull the trigger, and you will be rewarded with damage done. And so, armed with this valuable tidbit of information, I ventured into my next battle. This time, tier 6 match on steps. There is artillery, so we'll need to be careful. Actually, one of the things that you probably need to be careful most about in this machine is that you don't let that superb mobility go to your head and rush too far ahead. Get yourself outflanked, surrounded, and blasted into oblivion, which is very easy to do when you're in a tank that can reach 50 kilometers per hour and sustain it over rough terrain with relative ease. In this match, however, well, we've got some of those OI experimentals with us, don't we? Those massive 100-ton Japanese tanks that can do 40 kilometers per hour, so yeah, we've got plenty of backup. Haven't actually seen anything to shoot. Oh, there we go, T50. A T50? Okay, well, if you insist. And there's a Panzer IV back there with them as well. And I think there's a Chinook around this corner too, not entirely sure. But T50, not much of a problem really. Yep, took one on the upper glacis. Well, you'd think a T50 wouldn't be much of a problem, but watch this. Yep, that's right. 88mm gun just bounced off the front of a T50. Oh well, what are you going to do? Finish him off. Come on, guys. I don't want to be here all day. There it is. Here they come. Let's get around there. Oh, that Panzer IV. Yeah, the OI hit him and then he just basically gave up. Did I just take another hit from behind from my own? Yes, but seriously. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder what they're doing on these teams. Speaking of which, where is this Panzer IV going? Why are you in such a hurry to drive into the map border? There are no enemies over there. They're all up here. Come on, this way. Yes, that's it. Thank you. So, what did we learn in the previous example, by the way, with a Skoda T40? If you're going to fire the trigger, fire the trigger. No, if you're going to pull the trigger and fire the gun, sorry about that, forgot how to speak English for a moment. Stop and let it aim. And it turns out that that works remarkably well. SU-85 up there. 5 degrees of gun depression, so I have to crest the rise in order to get the gun pointed at him. And he's turning, but I don't rush the shot. And I'm rewarded by almost completely wiping him out in one hit. He fires and misses. I'm now below his line of sight, and I see some artillery running away. Wait. Lovely shot. And another artillery. Oh, it's the Hummel. Looks like he's got the stock gun. Wait for it. There. I might not have done full damage to the Hummel, but if I hadn't waited, I just wouldn't have hit him. Now he's dead, and I'm not, so it's all good. And this is what I like about medium tanks, particularly this one, because it is so fast and mobile, is we've basically crushed everything on this side of the map. And now the only 5 enemy tanks remaining, 6 enemy tanks remaining, are all over the other side of the map. If I wasn't in a medium, my game would be over now. I would pretty much be done. There'd be nothing else to shoot at other than this birch gun. Wait for it. Wait for it. There you go. Got him. But that would have been it. You just wouldn't have the speed, the mobility to get to where the rest of the fighting needed to be done. In the Skoda T40, not a problem. And when you get there, well, you've got the gun to do the job. Unbelievably, I actually fired on the move and hit the KV1. Unfortunately, here the gun handling really starts to let me down. It doesn't help that I've got the tank tied up on the rocks there, but that lack of gun depression. Alright, hang on. Stop and think here, Jingles. Wait. That's the shot you should be taking, particularly since he's now paying more attention to the T-50, who is barely able to penetrate his armour. But while he's pointing the gun at the T-50, bingo, there you go. Job done. I like this tank. So I suppose the big question is it worth the money? I can't really answer that. The reason I can't answer it is because at the time of recording this video, I have no idea how much this tank is going to cost. I'm still waiting for a reply from Wargaming. And I have no doubt that, as is Wargaming EU's want at the moment, they're probably going to package it in the premium gift shop with a whole bunch of premium time and gold that you don't necessarily want, need, or are able to afford. So whether or not it's going to be worth it, and if I do find out how much the tank is going to cost, I'll put that information in the video description down below, so that's where you need to check. Or it's probably going to be available on the World of Tanks website by the time this review is made public. But what I can tell you is that regardless of how much it's going to cost you, it is a good tank. It's fast, it's maneuverable, the gun is good, the armour is adequate, but it's pretty much everything that you want or expect out of a tier 6 brawling, scrapping medium tank. It is a good machine. Whether or not it is going to be worth the money depends entirely on what approach Wargaming take to marketing this thing in the premium shop. But regardless of whether you fork out your cash for it or not, rest assured you are getting a good tank. And a little piece of history, because it's the first Czechoslovakian tank to be introduced into World of Tanks. Can't really say fairer than that. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed today's video, folks, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.